You can divide 6 of crows into 2 groups, and then you have 2 murders.
Also, a few of them could break off and they'd be called counting crows.
If you have 2 crows, is it an attempted murder? Because a group of crows is called a murder.
2 crows is called negligent homicide.
Negligent homicide. I got
Murder
it.
background. A couple of crows.
Yeah.
The most popular, let's see, you have a murder, but a group of crows can also be called a horde, mob, muster, or parcel.
A parcel. I would like a parcel.
No, that's a group of dead crows in a package.
You know what? You know what a great grouping of, like, I love the bird groupings. Like flamingos is a flamboyance.
Oh my
gosh. Parliament of owls.
A parliament of owls. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
This is so cool.
Oh,
Birds are so cool.
Look up what a group of woodpeckers is called.
People talk about like secret societies and the control of the world. This is the true control of the world. Just a bunch of zoologists like, got another one, fellas.
Mm-hmm.
Got a hot one.
These
people,
are.
let's see how crazy we can get until they're onto us.
These are secret societies.
So a group of pelicans is called a squadron, a pod, or a scoop.
A scoop.
A scoop.
A scoop of pelicans.
Oh, interesting.
Hawks are a cast, a cauldron, or a kettle.
What?
That's cool.
These are so cool. We need to rename our podcast.
I know.
After a group of birds. Because we are a group
We are a
of
group.
nerds.
Practically
The
Buzzards
same.
are awake.
We'll call ourselves the cauldron of readers. After the wait, who did that? Ravens?
It was hawks and falcons were a cauldron.
Oh.
But chickadees are called a banditry. Because apparently they go in and steal stuff.
Welcome to the Dog-Eared Discourse, a nerdy little double date where we talk about the book we're reading and where we left off. Every month we're pulling a new and exciting book from our shelf. We've broken them down so you can buddy read with us, or just hang out while we discuss, predict, and nerd out. If you want to read along, right now we're reading The Forgotten Beasts of Eld by Patricia A. McKillop. We read up to Chapter 7, page 123. Here's a summary of the main characters so far. Sybel, our main character, Corrin of Cyril, who brings Sybel Tamlorn, the baby. Dread, the king of Eldwold. Tamlorn, the baby. Maelga, the neighborly witch, friend to Sybel. Mithrin, a powerful wizard for hire. Kelly will be giving us the 60-second synopsis of the first half of the book. Danny, are you ready with the timer?
Sure am. All right. 3, 2, 1. Go.
Okay, so we start with Sybel. She's our main character. She is a witch who lives in the woods, and she can call to mythical creatures, and she wants to get them into her mythical forestly family. She's trying to call Laurelin, which is her unicorn that she wants. It's not a unicorn, it's a bird. When she's trying to call it, this random guy, Corrin, comes and drops a baby at her feet and then kind of leaves. And she's like, I don't want this baby. I guess I have to take care of it. And so she gets help from a witch down the road. She raises baby Tamlorn and finds out that he is actually the son of the king. She calls the king because Tamlorn wants to meet the king, and the king comes and takes
15.
Tamlorn down to the city. And then Sybel gets captured by a wizard, even though she thought that was impossible, and connived into doing his wishes.
To
the end.
done.
Woo! Thanks, Kelly.
I left out a lot. Hopefully we can talk about it, but that's the long and short of what happens.
Yeah, you did pretty good.
Well, you know what I need after that speed talking? A nice, delicious beverage.
Hey.
Chris, what do we have today?
Today we're going to go with a non-alcoholic drink that we concocted called the Witch's Garden. It is 2 parts of Seedlip Garden number 105. I'm sorry. 1 part of gin replacement of your choice. We chose nil as the gin replacement. You can easily swap that out for gin and have a good old time. We did 1 to 2 bar spoons of twisted shrub, which was blueberry lemon. And that's really to taste. Its basis is like apple cider vinegar, so it overpowers the drink very quickly. And 1 bar spoon of simple syrup. And then you stir that whole thing together over ice, and then top with soda water after you strain it into a cup. And we are using a nice little wine flute, and then we threw a sprig of some kind of plant in there because that makes it look pretty. And I think this is very refreshing.
What kind of plant is it?
Thyme?
Is it thyme? Okay.
Do you have the time?
Oh.
It's a great time.
So cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Clink, clink.
Yeah, it is very refreshing. It tastes very light.
Yeah, it is very light. It has a nice hint of the forest, which is perfectly fitting because that's where the first half of this book takes place almost exclusively. You said that the apple cider vinegar overwhelms, but if you do just a little bit, then you really do get the flavor of the blueberry lemon, and it really does a nice job of making this extra refreshing.
Yeah, I would just be very careful with it because we found the Twisted Shrubs on Amazon. They have a lot of cool flavors. It does overpower the drink very quickly. I like a tart drink, so I was putting a quarter shot in and in our test, and I really liked it, but it came out very bitter. You would need something else to brighten it up. This is a good balance of herbaceous. It kind of tastes foresty and
gardeny, healthy. Mm-hmm. Tastes healthy.
It does taste healthy,
but not in a bad way. Yeah, and there's a couple different ones. There's Garden 105, which is what we're using here, and then there's also Spice or something like that, and it has a little bit more of the warm flavors to it. But these are great with, like, if you wanted to add to your gin and tonic or gin and soda water. It really does bring a lot to the table. And I added a little bit of simple syrup in there to, balance out that it wasn't that sweet. I didn't want to go with the tonic water because I felt like that might have overpowered the subtlety of the seed lip and the a little bit of the gin replacement. This was actually really pretty tasty. So,
where do you get your non-alcoholic alcohol?
Total Wine and More.
Total Wine?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can also order it on, most of it you can order on Amazon because it's non-alcoholic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
So the seed lip we got from a targeted ad because those things are amazing. And then the gin replacement, we were using Monday gin, but we wanted to try something new. So we decided to go with the nil, and that was at Total Wine when we went and took a look at it.
Awesome.
So you mentioned that it starts with the main character Sybel, but it really doesn't. I had to draw a family tree because the first half of the first chapter, they went through all these names and everything, and I literally look at this. I have a family tree drawn out just to figure out who is what, and this is after Corrin shows up. Yeah, because you had Mick, who summoned a unnamed female and had a baby called Ogun, who then summoned a female of a noble who's Lauren, and they had a kid, and that's Sybel. And they go through this to tell you that Mick was a very powerful wizard and had 2 black eyes, I think, or 1.
Yep.
Yeah,
He had two black eyes.
He had 2 black eyes. He taught Ogun how to summon creatures.
Who only had one.
Who only had
one green eye.
And then Sybel shows up. Now, Lauren died at childbirth, so only Ogun is raising Sybel. And that is, I think, evident by how cold-hearted she is. She is just ruthless. My suggestion is a diagram of, at least for the first chapter, because it does become important.
But they're none of the main characters.
They're absolutely none of the main characters. It's just for history. But they go through it so quickly that it's like, what is going on here?
I love a good brief breakdown of the family history in a book. I don't know. It was fun to read the generations that came before.
Yeah.
I really liked the way that part was written, though, because every section sounded like... So they start off with this guy with 2 black eyes who goes out into the forest to make his own name and starts to summon creatures, and he dies. But his son takes up the mantle, and it sounds like this is what the story is about.
And he's the guy.
And he is summoning creatures, and then he dies too. But Sybel also has black eyes.
Yeah, I was waiting for her to
die.
die.
Did I do? Okay.
And she's
Fool me twice. But
Yeah, I definitely had that same
she
feeling
makes
where
it. She makes it.
I was like, okay. And then you keep reading about her, and I was like, okay, well, maybe they just knew a little bit more. And I'm pretty sure I got maybe through the first whole chapter when I'm like, wait, she's not dead?
She's great.
Where's her demise?
Yeah,
I
I was
love
kind of
her.
waiting
Same.
throughout entire first chapter for her to kick off. But then when she started having dialogue where she started talking, I'm like, oh, probably the main character. This is cool. All right, let's start tracking this.
So she's so sassy. So she goes out. She's trying to summon her personal unicorn, which I mean that in the sense of like the thing that you're reaching for that you don't know if you'll ever aspire to.
Her great white whale.
Her great white whale is this gigantic bird called the Laurelin, which carried the only queen of Eldwood, which, side note, is almost certainly foreshadowing. What she does to call these creatures is she goes and just sits in a room with a green fire blazing, green like her dad's one eye, and just thinks about the
It's
creature.
like meditating.
Yeah, she meditates on
like
it.
Geralt. Yeah.
She calls out their true name, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was,
So naming is a big one in this book, and I think that's come up a few
It
times,
has, yeah.
right? Where
Just trying to summon it with its actual name.
Right.
Its true name.
which is and then she has power over it, and that's the idea, right?
So she gets really close to calling this thing, and she's got a pretty close bond with the other animals that are already living on her land. And the animals are like, "Yo, Sybel, somebody's here. You might want to check on that." And she's like, fine. And goes out, and like this random guy's there, Corin of Searle.
Wait. No, she isn't just like, fine. The first thing she says to do is drop him off a cliff. Before she just because she's getting interrupted. She's
Yeah,
just
'cause
like,
she's a
can you
badass."
drop him off the cliff? And then they don't.
The bird's like, is it the bird, right?
It was the bird or the dragon, one of those two.
Yeah,
So
they're
I was
like, I don't think that's a good idea for now. Because these are all like almost gods.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they're very, very powerful animals that she has control over. And it's like kind of funny because they are kind of companions of her, but they are all very wise and they don't always do what she says. They're like, you want to think about that first.
yeah, they're definitely not just a bunch of like
Idiots.
yes animals.
Yeah.
They are. Yeah, they have expressions, and they are not afraid to even get a little mischievous sometimes.
Yeah, it's not like she has absolute control over them, but she initially doesn't just yield. She's just like, why don't you drop him off a cliff? Because she's busy. She's like, he's a man. He's at our gates. Drop him off a cliff.
Yeah. I don't got time for no man. But she begrudgingly goes over there, sees what he's about, and blah, 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 lots of backstory. But he's like, so anyways, you'll take this baby, right? And she's like, what? No. He's like, well, you're a woman. You know how to take care of babies. And she's like, the fuck I do? What are you talking about?
Why would I know how to do that? Because you're a woman. So?
I mean, he might be playing the odds. He's like, there's a 90% chance this baby will die with you. 100% chance if I give it to one of these like weirdos that this guy's been hanging out with for the last few years.
Mm-hmm. I just thought it was funny that she's like,
Yeah.
no.
So he showed up with this baby because the king killed Corin's brother in like a battle because the king believed Corin's brother screwed his wife and had this child. But the kid's actually the king's kid between the king and Rihanna.
Yeah.
You find out. in a bit.
Damn.
But-
Royal Maury episode.
Yeah, so it's like a whole mix-up thing happening, and it then just skips 12 years. It's great.
So Sybel has to take care of this child. She's like, fine.
Yeah.
Fine. But she also gets some help because then Corin's like, oh, well, there's this neighborly witch that lives just down the mountain from you, and you can ask her for advice because I'm not going to give you any. So then she actually does, and Maelga, is that how you say her name?
Maelga.
She is actually pretty cool. She was very like, I was very like suspicious of her at first, but there's some funny moments with her. I love her. I'm so glad she's a supporting character for Sybel.
Yeah, Sybel really needed a motherly figure because she lives on her own with these creatures. She's not like emotionally equipped or anything to take care of a baby. Even when she has this baby, it sounds like she spends a lot of time still trying to call the Laurelin or Lyrelin. And so which means that she's sitting in this room for days on end,
leaving the kid to his own devices. It sounds like she really needed that witch to help her mother. So one of the things that I thought was really funny with Maelga was that she, right in the beginning of this, she had stolen a cow and left the jeweled ring in its place. So then for months afterwards, people kept leaving their barn doors open, hoping to get like some jewelry from it. And like that happening so early on, as soon as you get introduced to this character, reminded me of when we all read The Last Unicorn, and just how like descriptive this book is already. And there's just, it's unexpected, these little funny moments that had happened.
And they're very brief. And that was one of the things I really liked about The Last Unicorn too. It was like these very brief asides that give you great insight into these characters, where they like, you know, like they really do like give them so much more depth, and just a very small, like almost throwaway line. One of the things I was going to say, like about their dynamic too, and specifically Sybel, like getting this baby, it was cool to see somebody that was obviously like cold and like hardened by the way that she was raised, and then to suddenly see like this baby get thrown at her, and you see like after the 12 years passes, there's obviously like this love, and it's almost like she doesn't understand how to express it, but she understands. She's like, I really love the boy that's grown up, but it's almost like analytical and clinical.
Right. So like there's a part where she's, and it's talking about how she's, for days, like the kid vanishes, right? And she's just in her study doing her thing, doesn't even flinch that he's gone for days. Now, mind you, kid's 12, right? So he's okay. He's a little bit oldish, right? But not quite the age of disappear for days and don't get noticed. And he comes back and he's like, "Oh, I've been gone for a few days. I thought you'd have noticed." But she professes that she loves him. So it's like, okay, but her version of that is not quite coinciding with our version that most people know of love for a child. It's very disconnected.
Well, a couple things about that though. The time period seems to be like the Ren Fair times of like kids are expected to do work and go out and do stuff. And he had friends in the town, so he had people to go and talk to and play with. And she raised herself more or less in the company of these mystical beasts that were wise beyond her years. So she learned from the greats, basically. So I would be surprised if she knew how to raise a child in any other way.
Yeah, it's just interesting because it, like going back to Juan's point of the analytical, this is what, you know, this is fine, right? Like you were saying, this, you know, this is what a beast would do. Let their kid go off.
Yeah.
You'll be fine if he doesn't show up by like, you know, a week. Then you start worrying, right? But it's one of those. It's interesting, just the dynamic between them, because she does profess her love, but it's definitely not the kind of love that we're used to seeing in books. And I like that.
What does she say about when she first gets the baby? She says, I'll add it to the collection of my beasts.
I wrote that one down. Yeah.
Yeah.
It will go nicely in the collection. and that was like, Corn was like, red flag. Wait, what?
Like, you know, it's not an animal, right? She's like, what's the difference?
Yeah.
The difference is it can't tell. Okay, so the main character can actually talk to all of her animals, and they tell her what they want all the time. And she was looking at this kid like, yeah, but it's not going to tell me what it wants. So how do I take care of it? It's like, well, you figure it out. Don't really want to do that.
So when we say these animals can talk, it's because they are literally mythical beasts. They are the beasts from stories. There's the dragon that hoards the gold. There's
the giant black cat.
A giant black cat that has legendary knowledge of spells and charms. And there's the boar siren who knows the answer to all riddles except for one. It's not like your dog.
Right.
These are like actual creatures.
These are legendary creatures.
Legendary creatures. And I don't think that they say it specifically in the story, and I might have just made up this little tidbit on my own, but I got the sense that it's kind of like if you forget about them, they cease to exist.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I was
so
kind of getting that feeling too.
So for them all to have a place to be means that they can continue to exist, because these stories are old and nobody knows about them. And so it's especially interesting to Sybel.
And I think multiple times they had like where she would ask somebody, well, how do you know that name?
Oh, it was Corin.
It was
Yeah.
Corin.
It was Corin,
That's
right?
why it was
Okay.
especially
It was
interesting to
always Corin.
Sybel that Corin knows what all these animal creatures are. She mentions the Laurelin, I think, and he goes off on
Yeah, that's right.
what the Laurelin is and knows all these things about it. And she asks him, like, oh, how do you know that? And he dodges the question.
He's like,
She asks him
"Oh, I
again.
hear
He
stuff."
dodges the question.
Fortune
Yeah.
cookie.
Yeah.
So the title of the book is The Forgotten Beasts of Eld. So, but yeah, they all have some crazy heroic deeds that these animals have done in the past, like had some sort of service with kings and queens, have like taken certain special treasures. I don't actually remember which one for all of them, but you know, it's not just like, oh, it's like some sort of creature in a cave. No, like they're all the people who do know them, or they're written about based off of these like heroic deeds, or like wild stories.
So one thing I noticed with all the beasts, and I was wondering if you thought about this as well, was to me it looked like each of the beasts kind of represented an aspect of humanity. Like the dragon was greed, the boar was wisdom and knowledge. You had the falcon, which represented kind of freedom and viciousness, because it has
Bravery,
those
maybe.
claws. So each of the beasts kind of represented an aspect, and then she encountered the Blamor, or Rolmab.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Rolmab.
But the Blamor, which is fear in of itself, like as in the root cause of your death by fear. And so
Whatever your fear is, that's what you would see.
I thought that was interesting. What do you think about that idea?
I think that's great. Like I didn't notice it when I was reading, but I did kind of, the like Siren was at the boar, right? The wisdom one. I was like, I think there's something deeper here than just this like random pig wandering around giving his speech about what he thinks you should do. So yeah, I think that is really good insight.
I did look up each of these creatures to see if they had roots in actual folklore, because I hadn't heard of any of them, but that doesn't mean that they don't come from something. They don't. They're all straight from this book. Just
Oh,
FYI, in case
okay.
you're wondering. You Google it, it's only from Beasts of Eld. Which I think is really interesting, because she wrote them in such a way that I thought, oh wait, maybe they do represent an actual lore.
Yeah, have some basis in lore. I don't think I saw the like specifically that I could point like one animal would be some aspect of like the entirety of human nature, but you could definitely tell that each one had their specialty. My specific favorite example of like their personality coming through is the boar playing the joke on what's his name?
Siren or
No,
Corin.
Corin.
Siren playing the joke on Corin.
Corin. Yeah.
So not only does Sybel start to realize that she's developing a love for a child that she's caring for, this guy keeps showing up, Corin, and she starts to develop kind of an attraction to him. She states that later in the book she is not in love with him, but still, he's kind of convincing her to.
So the key that I saw on that was when the Corin shows up randomly, and the dragon attacked him because happened to see, or he got seen, and Sybel told him not to be seen. Right. So the dragon attacked Corin. Corin fought back valiantly, but was hurt. And then Corin deliriously said that you didn't have to send the dragon after me or something like that. And she was hurt that he would think that she would send the dragon after him. That's when I was like, she's got feelings for him.
Yeah. Because she initially was like, drop this guy off a cliff, like when he first showed up with the baby. And now she's like, oh, how dare you assume that I would do that to you?
He's like, that was last time, lady.
Yeah.
Although I wonder how a dragon carries gold. Would it be like you have these pockets, maybe? Like
Maybe he has a pouch.
Like a kangaroo? Ooh, a gold pouch.
Yeah. That's true.
I mean, how do they carry all that gold? Would it
You
be like
tell me,
one,
Chris.
Would it be
in
like
our last D&D game when we had that like red dragon thing talking to her? How did she carry her like gold
Well,
stuff?
she
Like a
had a lot of
chipmunk.
jewelry, right? So
She wore it.
She wore a lot of it, and then you mind screw people into bringing you the gold and putting it in your lair for you. That's how I'd do it if I was a dragon. Be like, hey peasant, come bring me some gold, or what? I'll burn your farm to the ground. Okay, got it.
What about Lord of the Rings? What is Smog? How did he get that whole?
I think he just went into the treasury of the dwarves or
and
something
then
like that.
this is mine.
Yeah,
Like a cat.
Yeah, like a cat just lays down right on it.
I think that they get like it's like catnip. Like I think that dragons are giant cats and gold is catnip too.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
I don't know why I just saw in my head this terrifying image of a dragon going and coming back to its hoard and just like a bird trying to feed its babies, just regurgitating
Just regurgitating.
Little
this
emeralds.
gold. Yeah. Some guy goes there and he's like, you know what? I don't want any of this. Never mind. This is disgusting.
So do you guys think that Corin is true of heart and is actually like,
Oh heck no!
or is he just in it for his brother to protect his side of the kingdom?
I think both.
I think also no. I don't know. Well, I mean, okay, I guess I'm going to be wrong on that one because I guess obviously he's there for his brother and wants to overthrow the throne because of that. But because it's like so in your face, I'm like, I bet there's an ulterior motive here. But I do think that he wants to use Sybel. I don't think that he has good intentions.
Like they do mention that he has a very silvery tongue and he can talk his way into anything, or
And anyone.
into anyone. But I think that he is probably a little bit of both when it comes to using and also being attracted to. I don't trust him right now at this point in the book. I think that they should have dropped him off a cliff on the second try. But yeah, he makes a good counterpart, and he's kind of the thing that I think will set him apart is that he's the youngest seventh son of a seventh son, right? So he's the seventh son of the seventh son of a person, which in Irish folklore and stuff like that is a powerful person, and that's where he got his powers from. So he has magical ability to hear what's on the wind, and so I think that they're going to kind of bond over that. They're going to have some fun over like, hey, I can hear.
I now that I hear you guys talk about this, when I was reading it, I was convinced maybe I'm just a hopeless romantic. I was like, oh man, he came all the way out here just to see her and
Just a drop of a baby,
Yeah.
and now he's trying to court her.
So he shows up days earlier than she actually calls him on one of, or not days.
Yeah.
She calls him and then like
Made her a
she
meal.
needs something, and she's been like spacing out for days at this point, and she calls him and he knocks on the door,
Hello.
and she's in shock. She's like, "What are?"
That was fast.
That was really fast. How'd you get here? And he's like, I
was
started
just
my
passing through.
Well, he was like, I started my journey 3 days ago, and
He felt like he was late then,
yeah,
I think, is what he was saying.
and so it was one of those where she was calling, or he was able to hear what she needed without her saying it, and for some reason he came running. So maybe there's some kind of bond there.
Yeah, I'm
That's
sold.
suspicious.
It is. I'm kind of like on the fence too, because I do think they have some potential to be a good couple because of their abilities and their interests and stuff. But also, I am very suspicious because literally all the other male characters mention like you can't trust this guy. Even Siren, which is the boar wisdom guy. Well, not a guy. He's literally an animal. But
the boar.
He's the one. Like when you were talking about the blammer, he plays a trick on him.
Yeah, basically he was having a conversation with a pig, which is funny enough as it is. And I forget what the riddle is, but essentially the pig kind of snickers and says, well, if you want the answer, just ask Sybel what the last name she spoke out loud was before yours. So he goes over and sets her up a little soup. He sets up a nice little meal for her. And then he asks the question, and then he says the Blamore's name out loud.
And that's like another animal or like a shadow or something?
It's another legendary creature that is fear of itself, like shadow animal.
Yeah, it was like a shadow, like a, I don't know. To me, it was like a spirit, right? It was like hanging out in the corner when we first meet it, and then it's like, ha pew.
So like he almost like kills Corin.
He almost kills himself.
Yeah, and then Sybel's like, oh shit, get out of here.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, okay.
She drives the Blammer away, which is just a funny name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, once it was driven away and it was like he was fine, he wasn't in any more danger. I was like, what happened to that soup that he spilled? Like, did he make enough to pour himself another bowl?
Party foul.
And then she was like,
Party foul.
man, that boar, I need to put him in a timeout. So it was like all these other, even the creature, all the men, like they're like, oh, you can't trust this guy. So yeah, with Corin, I'm like, I'm not sure yet.
No.
I'm not sure.
So can the pig actually talk out loud?
Because he was talking to Corin.
Because he was talking to Corin.
And there is a line, I think, in that same chapter where it's like it used its like bell sweet voice or something like that with her for the first time. Okay. So that's a good. I didn't thought about it at the time, but
yeah, because the kid, Tamlorn, which we haven't talked that very much about, but the kid cannot talk to any of the beasts. Like they say it out loud that like he cannot communicate with any of them, but they're all hyper protective of him because they're like, man, new person of the mountain, we like you.
Well, he doesn't have black eyes, so he can't talk to them.
Right, but if he can't talk to them, I don't remember how Corin talked to Siren, like whether it was out loud or not. Like,
I don't think they say.
Can Corin talk to the animals?
I think the boar used his voice that he hasn't used in a long time. Because I think there was like something along the lines where he was like, oh, you remember that you can speak. Or does that ring a bell to you?
Yeah.
So I think it's one of those things where these mythical beasts can communicate with whom they choose, unless you are magical abilities and you can, like Sybel and
then you
Corin,
can always talk to them.
Yeah. Maybe Corin can also. But I think in this case, the boar like chose to communicate with him.
Oh, okay. I didn't quite catch that.
I'm not really sure.
So I wasn't sure if that was going to be like another ability that he has that might cause a bond, right, between him. Because if someone else can talk to the animals, frolic with the animals, run with the animals, I don't know.
They can both be the zookeepers.
Yeah. The infinite zoo.
I'm kind of surprised that Blammer got introduced in the first half of the book, honestly, because the first couple of chapters, at least once she mentions feeling like somebody was watching her for the first time ever, and she'll be like sitting in the dark and she feels something there.
Oh yeah,
and it was very ominous for most of the first half of the book, and then it appears, and that's really cool, and she wasn't scared by it, which kind of threw it off, which means that she's way more powerful than anybody else.
But I think that's why he came to her, because he's like, you aren't scared of me. You can. And I think that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he says, the Blamor says, I will serve you, and one day you will serve the one who sees you truly, which is kind of foreshadowing.
Mm-hmm.
Creepy.
So I found here when Corin is speaking to the pig, it is in quotations. So it seems like he's speaking to him out loud instead of in the italics. Yeah.
Okay.
And then towards the end of their little encounter of Blamor and Corin's off, he used with her for the first time his bell sweet voice. One wise fool knows another.
Okay, so he was talking out loud. All right, I get it.
It's got a nice.
It's easy to miss things. They do the zips really fast.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of easy sometimes to just be like reading through and getting in the vibe and then just missing a detail here and be like, wait a minute, record scratch.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of like, I like Corin. I like his character, but also maybe it's like suspicious. It's very suspicious.
I don't like that he won't tell her how he knows the beasts and how he knows how to do everything and how he reads her mind before she thinks things. Like, that is nuts. I'm really curious as to what happens with that.
That point is one of the things that made me suspicious of him early on, is that he almost tries to downplay the fact that he like knows something that he shouldn't know. When he's called out for it, he's like, hey, what's that over there?
Yeah.
So
I hear
makes
stories.
right, yeah. So it makes you instantly suspicious. Like, okay, this guy is like, he's got ulterior motives here. There is something that he's out here doing that he's, you know, whether he, like you said, maybe he is attracted to her, or maybe he's not. Now that, you know, he's in the mix, he's like, oh man, I don't want to hurt anybody, but I'm still kind of evil.
Yeah, so also it's interesting that he's so obsessed with the King Drede, because, you know, the king only killed one of his brothers. I mean, you've got 5 others.
I think it made his life easier.
His favorite brother, though.
She even calls that out. She's like, come on, you've got 5 other siblings. What do you want? And because he's like the 7th son of a 7th son. And he's like, oh no, but you don't understand. He would actually believe me when I told him that, like, me being able to hear things on the wind.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until after the Blammer was summoned that he actually came clean on all that. And that might just be him pissing his pants.
Understandable reaction to the Blammer.
The Blammer.
Blammer.
I'd say he got off lucky. If that's all that happened.
So what did you guys think of the magic system in this one? Like, we've encountered a bunch of different magic systems in other books that we've been reading. What was your take on the magic system?
I feel like the only thing that I really understand is the name calling and then owning, if you know their true name. But then once we get to the wizard, I feel like there's other stuff going on I just don't really understand.
Yeah, I was in the same boat. I think it's interesting that it's an unexplained magic system. It's like there was this wizard. They don't even say what he can do. And then you have this new wizard who shows up, and he's like, oh yeah, I was doing this, but also I'm a actual wizard where she steals spell books from people. She steals tomes and stuff like that from wizards who can clearly do other things than just name calling.
Like the wizard that she stole from was invisible at the time where she stole from him. So he like recalled, he was like, I was actually there. You didn't see me, but I was actually there.
Yeah. So she went through at the beginning of the book and stole some tomes from what she thought was abandoned places so that she would have the true names of creatures and can continue to call to them. And that comes back to bite her later. Let's talk about the sun a little bit, because I think that will help give us some context for what we're talking about with the second wizard.
Okay, so like Tamlorn.
Tamlorn is another name that doesn't exist outside of this book.
It's an interesting one.
Bram. Anyway, he's a baby at the beginning of this book, and Corin's favorite brother Norrell was making googly eyes at Drede's, who's the king, his wife Rihanna, and so King Drede killed Norrell, and Rihanna had a kid and died. That kid's name is Tamlorn, and Tamlorn is actually the son of the king.
Yes.
So there's his history via my nice little flow chart that I've got going on here.
Ye old 23andMe.
Yeah. So Tamlorn's an interesting kid, right? He's kind of headstrong for 12. Brave because he's got like, you know, a giant falcon running around with him all the time. He goes hunting on his own, stuff like that. I like him. I think he's a stand-up dude.
And
Way too naive, though.
Yeah. He has the interest when the king comes to call for him, but he doesn't at first want to leave Sybel because he loves her as a mother. But then he's so drawn to the city life and like just the whole, like, you know, living the lavish life of luxury in the kingdom. So he ends up actually having her call the king back, being like, yes, he accepts that he's your son. Please take him because he wants to be with you and his dad.
That was interesting, though, to point out that he is very almost, I don't know if gullible is the right word, but I imagine if you grow up only knowing animals, that you would not be aware that people could try to fool you. Because I mean, animals don't typically have like these long, like multi-generational plots to get back at somebody. They're just like, I'm hungry right now. I'm gonna eat. I'm tired. I'm gonna sleep.
I want gold. I'm going to go fly and get some.
Yeah.
And then occasionally attack a dude on the way back.
Yeah,
right?
char a few people.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they did specifically say that he had friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
He had a friend Nar and YR, I think. And like, so he did know other people,
Yeah.
but he didn't, in my eyes, seem very like cautious. I think he's going to be eaten alive by the city.
Oh, for sure. And Sybel was even worried about that as well, because she was like arguing with the king, saying that she didn't want Tamlorn to be caught up in all of these political schemes and being used by men and war and
Right.
anger and all those other things that she says that they don't have on the mountain.
Well, she's got the falcon her watching him, hanging out with him, and Maelga the witch also has a raven at the palace, so he's got eyes on him.
She had.
Yeah.
So sad.
Yeah,
I
so
felt
sad.
really bad for her. She seems very like, I don't know. She reminds me of a character I can't quite pinpoint, but when her raven died, I felt very bad for her.
I don't really understand why the raven died. So what happened was Sybel came back from a visit at the palace and was trying to call the Lyrillin, and she passes out. Her fire goes out. She's kind of like laying down with a book in her hands, as we've all done at least once in our lives, I'm sure. And she gets woken up by Maelga. It's like, hey, your fire's out. Like, you don't look well. You're way too skinny. You're freezing to death. And my bird came to you and is also dead by your feet. Not sure about
she
that.
didn't. No, she didn't go to the palace. I think she was so distraught that
was right after
Tamlorn
Tamlorn
left her to go to the palace. So she was just stuck at home, like
Yeah.
being depressed.
So she
She
had the
swooned.
emptiness syndrome.
Emptiness
Yeah.
syndrome.
Yeah, she swooned.
Oh, God, another
This
bird
chick does not
reference?
take care of herself, though. Oh my
No.
god, when she does her little like meditation things, she's out for like I swear months, and it's like she doesn't feed herself. She's just sits there. Like, how do you not like have frostbite and just like die?
No, I
I
have
don't
no
get
idea. It's the green fire keeps her alive.
Sure, I don't even know what that is.
Also, she has her neighbor come and
Give her an onion every now and then. Here, eat.
eat.
Mix her up a shake.
Yeah.
So she summoned the king, right, by name. And that's a whole issue in and of itself. But anyway, so she summoned the king. The moment the king saw Sybel and all of the creatures, he was like, I got to have it. Got to collect them all. And he was obsessed with her. He really wanted her power.
And also, he was scared that she called him by name. And so to him, that was the biggest threat.
Yeah.
Right.
Because she called him and he went. He had no choice.
Right. And so she's like she summoned him again a second time to drop off the kid, and she thought that would be the end of it. But Kingy had another plan, which was this other wizard dude who was like, hey, can you summon her if I give you her name? And he's like, sure. And that was a twisted little plot at chapter 6.
Yes, that chapter was like, oh god, that was crazy.
Also, maybe I don't know if I read too much into this, but that's what I thought killed her raven. I thought he just blasted it out of the sky.
I thought,
Or not blasted out of the sky, but I felt like he was behind that.
yeah,
Wizard
it
too?
was
Wizard too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
because the Maelga sent out a raven to find the person that's calling her, because Sybel knew what being called feels like because she's done it to so many things.
Yeah.
So she was like, something's calling me, and you know
And it was like she was distraught because it was really getting into her head. And I mean,
she
she
couldn't
explains
control.
right that there is nothing in there that like she couldn't fight back against it. So it was unraveling every little bit of her mind, and like there was no
more powerful
secret
than she
in her
was.
mind, right? And she
Yeah.
knew that there was nothing she could do to defend against it.
right, she was going to go to wherever it was.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do to stop it. And so like Melga sent out the raven to go find the person, and it comes back and like flies all the way back to the hut and then dies. And like, what a dick move. Not just like it never shows up again, but I'm going to animate it all the way back and then it's just going to explode on you or something. Like, I don't know how it died, but I think it just dropped dead. But I would have made it explode if I was a wizard.
Oh.
Yeah. Just Dumb and Dumber, right?
Yeah.
His head fell off.
So this actually brings up a really good point of, calling something by name and then summoning it and then having some kind of control over it. It gets brought up quite a few times. And in fact, like Sybel's entire family does this, right? So like Mick did it with a random chick. Ogun did it with Lauren. Where they summon a girl and they specifically talk about how it wasn't really consensual.
Yeah.
It was, no, you're going to have a kid with me. Mm-hmm. And then it happens to Sybel of like the wizard calls her and then she loses all agency. She's like, I can't exist like this. And basically the king wants her broken. Like, break her mind. I still want her powers. And she is having none of it, but she can't resist. So that was a like feeling trapped in your own mind, kind of like she'd rather go insane. I thought that was a well put together chapter.
Our Blamor makes a comeback.
Yeah.
I love the way that was set up.
Where she's just like
Yeah.
being all sultry and stuff. And be like, you can have me. And then he gets all lusty.
Yeah. He lets his guard down.
Lets his guard down and she's able to say one word. Blamor.
Yeah.
And it just rips him to shreds.
Yeah, and that was the other thing too. I was like, wait a minute, this wizard that's supposedly all powerful just gets annihilated by this, but Corrin was able to sustain.
Probably because he wasn't caught off guard.
Yeah, and I think she intervened, right?
Like immediately.
Yeah.
And on this one, she was like, no, kill him.
Yeah.
Like make sure he's dead. And then she's just like,
oops.
I want Drede for me. She calls off.
Yeah.
Okay, so the falcon, was cut off from her for a little bit, and the wizard had the falcon
under his control.
Falcon gets free and is like, I'm going to kill the king. And she's like, no, he's mine.
I'm going to eat his eyes.
Because she's so pissed that the king had hired the wizard to call her there so that he could break her mind, marry her. And then the wizard's like, no, I want you for me. And she's just like, I can't do this. I need to take control of myself and my future. And then she calls the Blammer. And yeah, that was amazing. Like that whole chapter, I had to reread that. I was like, what just happened?
Yeah, she calls the Blammer as the wizard's being a creep, and he screamed once, and then the Blammer overwhelmed him like a mist that held him upright in an instant, his arms outspread, fingers taut. Then he dropped. The Blammer said to Sybel, "Is there more?"
Damn.
Cold. So awesome.
Damn, finger licking good. He's just like, any seconds?
And then she's like, no, Drede's mine. And she just was like, I'm going to kill him.
This was such a great part to end on for the first half of the book. I was like, oh, God, I want to keep reading.
Talk about a cliffhanger, man.
Yeah. So prediction, I think she's going to go ballistic.
Yeah.
I think she might not kill the king, but the only one that's going to stop her would be Tamlorn. And she mentioned, it may hurt Tamlorn, but I'm going to kill the king.
Yeah.
Like she thought that. And I was like, yeah, you go kill that king.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, oh gosh, there's a couple of ways that I think this could go. So I have two different predictions. Am I allowed to do that?
Sure.
One prediction.
You gotta type them out, so yeah.
I will. So one of my predictions is that she goes and kills Drede or Dread, the king, and somehow becomes the queen because she raised Tamlorn and that on that side of the kingdom. The other way it could go is she joins forces with Corrin and his side of the kingdom and family that's against Drede and uses herself plus his army and all the brothers and stuff and but somehow make sure that she can get Tamlorn as well. So I don't know. Actually, I think I'm leaning more towards Corrin because now that she's all powerful, I don't know. I think I'm going to have to go with maybe she gets Corrin's help sides with Corrin, but somehow saves Tamlorn. I don't think Tamlorn's going to die.
What's your prediction, Kelly?
I don't think Tamlorn's going to die either. I think that Corrin is going to help Sybel defeat Dread, but the only reason that he's going to be doing that is to take the throne himself for some reason. And then I think Corrin is going to be more powerful than we think, and Sybel and Tamlorn are going to have to join forces against him.
So I just found out, like just now, I was thinking that this book reminded me of another book I've read. So I Googled the title. It's another book by her.
Oh, really?
Right. And it reminded me of this because my prediction was it's going to be a cutaway, and it's going to be a year later, Corrin's going to show up at the palace and everybody's dead.
Oh, okay.
And that might or might not have happened in another book that she's done.
Oh, okay.
Juan, what's your prediction?
I am starting to think that she is going to try to exact her revenge on the king. And just before she's able to, we find out who Corrin really is. And I think he's going to be more powerful than we imagined. And she will have to begrudgingly like team up with the king's army or whatever to take him out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's kind of where I'm going with this, unfortunately. Because I was
Opposite from what kind of what we were thinking.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we all have slightly different suspicions, so we'll see who ends up being closest.
What was the book that
The Riddle Master.
The Riddle Master.
I've seen that book.
Yeah, it's
I
on
haven't
our
read
shelf. It's on our shelf. I read it, and the cut in the middle threw me way off because it was like 5 years later. Some people come looking for the main character because they're like, "Where did he go?" Or something like that. I don't remember exactly what it is, but main character became villain.
Wow, that's cool.
And so I'm hoping there's this cut where it's like 5 years later, and like they come in, the army comes in, and everybody's dead.
Yeah.
That would be so cool, but
That would
it's
be
probably not
cool.
going to happen that way because she's already done it once, and yeah.
I
need to reread that book. It's been a long time.
I have a question for all of everybody about predictions. Do you think that she gets the Lyrillin,
I think that, yes.
the big
Yes.
white bird?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that the Lyrillin is going to show up. Do I think she gets the Lyrillin? That's another question.
I think she does because I think that she becomes the queen at the end.
I think that she's going to eventually have to serve the Lyrillin. Because
I
of the
think she-
Blamor made a prediction about her serving somebody, which might have come true in the wizard sense, but
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think there's something larger that's going to come up and be like, no, you've got a bigger thing to worry about. 'Cause we're only halfway through the book.
I think the Lyrillin was described as a big giant bird that carried the only queen of Eldwold. So I think that at the very, very end, it's going to come to her and she's going to write it because she has become the next queen.
Where she's going to go with it.
Who
Back-
knows?
back to her
Into
mountain.
the sunrise.
Bye, everyone.
She becomes the queen. She's just like, I'm peacing out back to my mountain. Peace, guys. Rule yourselves.
I think she is the Lyrillin. I think she's like reincarnated because she has white hair on the cover of this book. I know this book has like a million covers, but on this book she has white hair. So I'm thinking maybe she's like a reincarnated Lyrillin, and that's why everybody wants her because she is a mythical beast. She's a beast.
So you think she's a mythical beast? Okay,
Cool.
I like that prediction. It's much better than mine.
What do you think, honey?
I'd honestly forgotten about the Lyrillin this entire time. I forgot about
her
that.
whole life goal is just to catch this thing, and she's wasting her life away just spending their time calling out to it for years and years.
This is true. But I kind of want to go counter here and just say that it's going to stay a myth.
Okay. All right. Well, this is where we are folding the page corner. And next time we'll finish up The Forgotten Beasts of Eld and talk about what's next on our bookshelf. You can buddy read with us on GoodReads and Instagram at Dog Ear Discourse, or view our reading schedule for the year on our website at dogeardiscourse.com. Thanks for joining.